What's up, everybody? Welcome to Call to the Bullpen. I'm David Payne with Brad Zampar and Jimmy Miller. Let's play ball. Today, we're going to get into the World Baseball Classic starting this week. First time since 2017 that we're seeing them run the most prestigious international baseball tournament. Pretty cool. We just had the World Cup this year. Now we're going to have the World Baseball Classic. We missed it because of the pandemic, and I'm super, super excited because the last one was it was awesome. One of my favorite baseball moments ever is Adam Jones jumping up and robbing Manny Machado from a home run, especially that hit home for Brad and I, both being Orioles guys. But before we get into the WBC, we're going to do the chatting cage and talk a little bit about spring training so far. I mean, one of the unfortunate things about spring training is that you're playing real baseball games and guys are going to get hurt, and that takes a toll on the regular season. And this year, it's taking a toll on the WBC too. First up, we've got Vlad Jr., who's going to be missing the WBC. Big blow to the Dominican team. Really, I think that this does impact, they're kind of neck and neck with the U.S. And now, not sure how I feel about the first base now, having two elite first basemen on the U.S. team, and then the DR losing Vlad Jr. We got Joe Musgrove with a fractured big toe. We've got Andrew Painter, who was poised to come up and have a big year for Philadelphia there with some elbow tenderness. Glass now injured again. Glass elbow, we've been calling him. Gavin Lux is the real big one. Torn ACL, out for the year on a really kind of sucky situation where he's just trying to avoid a throw and takes a wrong step. You got Seiya Suzuki, questionable for opening day with an oblique strain. And I believe he was another one who was going to be playing in the WBC who's going to have to miss. And Brendan Rodgers, dislocated shoulder, likely out for the year. Today, we had Justin Turner get hit in the face by a pitch. So spring training has taken its toll on some of these players and some of these teams. Which of these injuries do you guys see being the most impactful on their teams?
I'd say probably Gavin Lux. I mean, you consider the fact that they did lose Trey Turner to the Phillies. I think they were kind of relying on a guy like Lux to. I mean, he's kind of last year he made a big step up from where he was. A lot of people thought he was kind of a bust, but I think losing Lux is really big for the Dodgers. I mean, now they're going to have Chris Taylor definitely is going to have to play shortstop. Mookie's probably going to have to play some second base. There's going to be a lot of jumbling of positions around there. They're going to have to rely on young guys more than ever now. So I think it puts their record and maybe even their division in jeopardy now, considering how good the Padres are.
Yeah, I definitely think Lux is one of the two main injuries, but my big one I think that is going to affect the whole team. It's going to be the trickle-down effect. We kind of saw it last year. It's Tyler Glasnow. What he does in Tampa Bay is really a main part of them being able to use arms like they do, because usually they have one or two, maybe three workhorses in that rotation, and then they just piece guys together throughout the year. And that's not really what they had last year. And obviously, they had an underwhelming year. Didn't do what the Rays way is supposed to go down. I mean, you had McClanahan, but outside of that, it was rather bleak. And they're gonna miss him to start this year. And you can't really trust him to come back and be that impactful guy that he's been in the past.
Yeah, and I think that Brendan Rodgers going down takes the Rockies from World Series favorites to out of it. No, I'm kidding. The Rockies suck. But I mean, Vlad Jr. is probably going to come back pretty quickly. I guess I think that Lux is one that, Jimmy mentioned Mookie's going to play some second base, and that's a pretty darn good replacement there that you're going to have coming in at second. So maybe Glasnow is the one that's going to affect the team more. But I think that Lux going out actually change. I've been kind of, we're going to do an episode where we go over our awards picks, and Lux going out actually changed one of my awards picks because Jason Hayward's going to see a whole lot more time in the outfield now. So keep an eye out for my Jay Hay comeback player of the year pick, because I think that he's going to be a big part of that Dodgers, which has actually become kind of a weak Dodgers outfield now. So keep an eye out for that because that pick is coming. But Brad, you wanted to give us a little tidbit here about Miguel Vargas. We've talked about what would Barry Bonds look like in 2004 if he never swung a bat. And we're getting a look at a ball player who can't swing a bat. So tell us what's going on here.
All right, so Miguel Vargas over the winter he broke a bone in his hand. I don't know the specific bone, but they're allowing him to play the field, and he can still make throws. He can do all the stretches, do everything like that, but they don't want him swinging a bat. So they're sending up there in the 9 hole every day when he's playing. He's just getting his timing, and he's been walking. Guys are knowing that he is in that box and he can't swing the bat, but they can't throw him strikes. So there was this one stat from, was it Codify Baseball? It was 3 days ago, so he might have added to this, but 1,160 guys have taken a spring training plate appearance this year, and only 3 of them have walked more than Miguel Vargas has so far. So it's kind of crazy that this guy is in the lineup. Teams know that he can't swing, and yet he's still walking.
I don't know what that says about these pitchers, that they can't just put the ball right over the middle to him. It's essentially like a bullpen when he's up there.
Did you see what Zach Greinke did to him?
No, what happened?
If you look it up, Zach Greinke faced him. So the first 2 pitches, he was humming balls. You could hear him like doing his grunt and doing the whole thing. It got it to 0-2, and then he started throwing balls up there like 50 miles an hour.
That's a very Zach Greinke thing to do. I would expect nothing else from him. But that's super interesting that it's important for him to get up there, right? Even though he can't swing because of this pitch clock. Maybe in a normal year, they wait until the last couple spring training games or have him do some live things on the practice fields with some of the minor leaguers or something to get that timing down. But right now it's so important to just be getting in that box and getting a feel for what that 15, 20 seconds feels like. And, we're still seeing, a week, 2 weeks into these games, we're still seeing, I was watching the Orioles game today and there must have been 4 pitch clock violations. We're still seeing constant pitch clock violations. So definitely important to be getting those, just getting a feel for being in the box this year. But now we can hop over to the World Baseball Classic, which is kicking off on Tuesday this week. And first off, let's go with our picks to win the whole thing. Let's start off hot. And I'm going to go ahead and betray my country, and I'm going to take the DR. I think that the U.S. won the last one, but I see lots of question marks on the pitching side. So I'm going to take the DR, and we're going to talk a little bit more about why and what these teams bring to the table. But my pick to win it all is the DR.
I'm going Team USA, kind of staying in the country, but I don't know. I just love that offense. I think you look at the firepower of that offense. You have guys, like you said, 2 elite first basemen in Goldie and Alonso, right? Like those 2 guys can play. One can DH, one can play first. You see that all around the infield and outfield. The guys are going to be backups that are all stars on their normal MLB team. So I really think the USA is going to win. Like you said, the pitching is it might struggle a bit, but I think the offense has what it takes to kind of shadow that lack of pitching.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go with either of those choices. Something that I learned when I started watching the Little League World Series was that Japan is always there to stick around and somehow win the championship. They've won this thing twice. They know how to do it. They're guys that play for the country more than any other country, and I feel like they'll be able to get the job done this year.
Yeah, and these are the 3 like clear-cut best teams, I would say too. Like there's a decent gap after these 3 teams. There are 3 elite squads, and I like that we're all going 3 different directions with this. Ironic that the guy wearing the Japan jersey is not the one that picked Japan, but that's pretty cool. So now we named our favorites, but how about a sleeper team? And I'm going to kick it off with a team that's maybe not as much of a sleeper as ones that you guys will throw out. But I feel like Venezuela is a team that is right on the cusp of being one of those top elite teams. So looking at this roster, you got guys like Sal Perez behind the plate, with Robinson Chirinos and Omar Narvaez as backups. And then you go to the infield and you've got Altuve, you've got Luis Arias, you've got Miggy, of course, as like the veteran leader there, although I doubt he's going to see a majority of the playing time when you've got guys like Eddie Escobar, Andres Jimenez, Miguel Rojas, Eugenio Suarez, Gleyber Torres in the infield. That's a stacked infield. That infield rivals the U.S. It rivals the DR. Then the outfield, you got Ronnie Acuna, David Peralta, and Tony Taters, Anthony Santander, Orioles favorite. And then on the pitching side, you got guys like Pablo Lopez, Darwinzon Hernandez, Martin Perez, Jesus Luzardo. It's a stacked team that kind of flies under the radar. You talk about these other teams as being the big three, this is not a shabby team at all. This team can very well beat any of the three teams that we mentioned. So while the DR is my pick, I think Venezuela's got a shot. And I would say probably the best shot outside of the three teams that we mentioned. But in the power rankings that I've seen, I haven't seen Venezuela getting that kind of love. I've seen teams like Puerto Rico, Cuba above them. So shout out to Venezuela. Who do you guys got?
Yeah, I kind of took it in a different direction, kind of thinking about teams that, they're probably not going to be, in contention to really win it all. But teams that can just make it past that, initial pool round. This team hasn't made it past the pool play or the group play since 2009. I'm looking at Team Mexico. I like the starting pitching a lot when you think about Julio Urias, Taijuan Walker, Jose Urquidy, kind of an under the radar Astros pitcher. I really like him a lot. As well as a nice lefty in Patrick Sandoval for the Angels. You have Giovanni Gallegos, who's a good reliever for the Cardinals. Across the infield, it's kind of bleak, but you have Joey Meneses, who did very well last year. Kind of an older player for the Nationals. Rowdy Tellez. And across the outfield, you have Randy Rosarina. We all know that he's a guy that shines when the moments, the bigger the moment, the more he shines in Rosarina. Some younger guys in Jarren Duran, Alek Thomas, and Alex Verdugo. He could definitely step up. He's an exciting guy. When you think about Rosarina and Verdugo, guys with a lot of flair, both like the big moment. So I think that they could definitely make it past that pool play. And, like I said, they're probably not going to win it all or have a chance to. But, as long as you just make it past that pool round, show, your prowess and at least put up a fight. And I think Mexico will do that.
I tell you what, too, they have like sleeper uniforms. Their uniforms are fire, like consistent fire every single year. I love how the whole country embraces the color scheme. You'll see some of these countries that have, for example, Japan wears like navy blue and gold. They don't wear like the team flag or any of that. But every year, Little League World Series, you see Mexico sporting the red and green. WBC team looks fire. So even if they don't go and win the whole thing, they're going to look good while they do whatever they do. But who you got, Brad?
All right, so my team would be lucky if they even get out of the first round, but I think they'll at least clinch a berth in the WBC for 2026, which is you have to finish third. I think you have to finish third in your pool to guarantee in the future WBC appearances. So it's going to be Chinese Taipei. They're in Pool A. It's not a very strong division or pool, used to saying divisions, but they're also at home. Like they're going to be hosting this opening round, and their whole roster is mostly compiled of the whole Chinese baseball league. So it is all the stars of all the Chinese baseball league. It's all the top guys from that league. Their only major league guy that has seen major league time on the roster is Yu Chang, who's obviously he's had a few cup of coffees with the Guardians and the Red Sox, but nothing other than that. They have a few minor leaguers and minor league systems, but I think them being at home, they're going to have that home crowd rooting for them, a weaker pool. I think there's an outside chance that they could somehow get above the competition in Pool A.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, too, because China has two teams. You've got the Chinese team and then the Chinese Taipei team. So it's kind of similar to, having the U.S. and Puerto Rico, where when you had that championship game, you had two shots at the U.S. winning, technically, but it will be interesting to see who makes it further, Taipei or the China team. I think is something that's really interesting.
See, the China team hasn't been organized since 2019, so they're showing up. I think they showed up last week, and that was their first time playing organized baseball together.
That's interesting, and that's actually a team that's pretty similar to that I'd like to point out is the Czech Republic. Who I don't know if you guys have seen the video, but these are quite literally science teachers and electricians. And this is the major leagues when Babe Ruth played. These guys just have day jobs, and then they're showing up to the ballpark in the biggest stage in the world. Your high school English teacher is going to face Shohei Ohtani, and that's crazy. So that's a super, super fun team that I'm looking forward to watching, although I can't imagine they're going to be great. But I saw somebody on Twitter was complaining about Manny Machado's contract, and they were like, if Manny Machado can get paid $350 million to play baseball, why can't teachers? And someone quoted it and said, "Tell me when teachers can do this." And it was the play of Manny at Yankee Stadium where he kind of bobbles the ball in foul territory and slings it across. Probably the greatest play I've ever seen. But then someone quoted that quote tweet and was like, "Just wait till you watch the Czech Republic play." Because that's literally what it is. It's just bankers playing baseball. It's pretty sick. So let's go pool by pool. 2 teams make it out of each pool in the first round. So starting with Pool A, which has Chinese Taipei, Netherlands, Cuba, Italy, and Panama. Who do we see coming out of this pool?
Brad, you want to go first? I got to think about this one. This is kind of you kind
It's
of
not a
touched
great
on this
pool.
before.
All right, so out of Pool A, I'm gonna have the Netherlands coming out of it, and I'm gonna have Chinese Taipei coming out of it.
Okay. I think
the
bold.
Netherlands kind of they're not really a team of stars, but they're a team of veterans who know how to play the game. So I feel like that's going to factor into them advancing. And then Chinese Taipei, obviously, I just gave my whole rant about them.
I think Netherlands always has a good team. I think Italy's got a good team this year. But I'm going to take Cuba's interesting. This is the first year that defectors can play for Cuba. So if you left Cuba previously, you could not play for the Cuban team. So now major leaguers who are from Cuba can play for Cuba. So I'm going to take Cuba, and I'm going to take the Netherlands out of Pool A.
Yeah, no, I saw that Brandon Nimmo decided not to play for Team Italy this year. I'm a huge Nimmo fan, so just for that alone, I don't have them moving on. So yeah, I mean, I'll take the Netherlands. I don't know. I kind of like the Chinese Taipei. That Brad kind of convinced me a little bit there.
Well, I like that you're making spite picks because Nimmo's not playing. I like that. Now we'll go to Pool B, in which we've got. Let's see who is in Pool B.
USA,
yes,
Mexico,
this is
Great Britain.
That's Pool C.
Oh, okay.
Pool B, we've got China, we've got Japan, Korea, Australia, and the Czech Republic. To me, this one's a no-brainer. It's going to be Korea and Japan that make it out of Pool B.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Even if they don't have Seiya Suzuki, I mean, Ohtani's going to do what Ohtani does. I think he's definitely going to lead Japan to maybe even win the whole thing. Honestly, I really do think that they could win it all.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear cut that it'll be Japan and Korea advancing.
Yeah, so now we can go to Pool C, in which you have the USA, Mexico, Colombia, Canada, and Great Britain. And I feel like we're all going to be in agreement again here that we're going to have the USA and Mexico come out of this one. But I'm just going to say don't sleep on Colombia, though. I think that Colombia puts together a pretty respectable team. And when you're playing teams like Great Britain and Canada, maybe they come out with a few more wins than we think here. So I'll take the USA and Mexico, but I'm going to say watch Colombia.
Yeah, I think the USA is pretty much a given. Like I said before, with Mexico, I think they have a really good shot at making it out of pool play. They haven't done that, as I said before, since the 2009 WBC. So yeah, I'll go USA and Mexico.
Now I know we haven't started our full podcast yet, but I'm going to be placing a futures on Mexico to win the pool. And it's not going to be that USA is going to not win the whole thing per se. I'd feel more confident with them, but I think that Mexico might just sneak by and win the pool.
Oh, that's bold. I like that. That's very bold and borderline treasonous. Now we're going to the final pool, Pool D, and this is a stacked pool. You've got Puerto Rico, Venezuela, the Dominican Republic, Israel, and Nicaragua. Israel puts together a sleepy good team every year. You don't realize how many players actually are Jewish. You don't realize that until you see guys just popping up on the roster. It's like when you don't realize that Lars Nootbaar is Korean. Like
did you see going back to Lars? Did you see his in the huddle when he was talking?
Tommy Edmond too.
Yeah.
Hello? Here?
Yeah, who was that me?
Yes, that was you.
But Lars, are you still frozen?
Well,
kind of.
saying about Lars?
All right, so Lars, he was in like the team huddle, and they just started talking Korean, and he asked his translator, like, what were they saying? Like, can you translate for me? And he goes, I don't know what the fuck they were saying. Like, good luck.
Yeah, the WBC is always good for like not realizing where certain players their heritage is from, and then finding that out. It's super super cool to see guys like Tommy Edman, who, you could see it, like, when you hear it and then you look at him, you're like, okay, I see it, but you would never think that, like, oh, Tommy Edman's going to be playing for Japan. Who also I believe the first this year we have the first Cuban players who are defectors. We also have the first Japanese and Korean players on the national teams that aren't natural born citizens, which is really interesting. You've only had Japanese born and Korean born players on the teams before. So having American born citizens on those teams is pretty sick. But I've got it's tough because I took Venezuela as a sleeper, but I know that Puerto Rico is very, very good. Obviously, I'm taking the DR out of it, and I guess I will stay true to my sleeper pick and take Venezuela as my second team out of Pool D with low confidence.
Yeah, I'll go DR, and I'll also go with Puerto Rico. Considering you have Lindor, and then you get the ball to Diaz. In the last inning, that's really going to be fun to see. I wonder if they have that light show or not the light show, but Narcos.
Timmy Trumpet.
Yeah, Timmy Trumpet going out on the world stage. That'd be pretty cool. So I think that get the ball to him, just find a lead, get the ball to him in the ninth, and you'll be set. So I'll go DR and PR.
Yeah, I'm going with Dominican, and I'm going with Venezuela. I feel like Venezuela, like you've been saying, they've got the pieces this year to do a little shocking.
Yeah, I think they're going to make noise. So that's who we got all coming out of the first pool. Obviously, at the end of the first pool, we're going to run it by with the quarterfinals and who we think is going to make it out of that. But before we end this episode, I'm asking for one player to watch throughout this tournament. So who do you guys got?
I'm going to go Francisco Lindor. I guess it's kind of an obvious pick, but he's steadily improving as a Met. Right, his first year as a Met wasn't very good. He definitely had a better year last year. I think that if he could have a big WBC, it could really get his confidence up going into the 2023 MLB season.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer if you watch this just as a baseball fan. It's Rokai Sakai. He's the starting pitcher for Japan. He's 21 years old. He is just disgusting. He's not eligible to come to the U.S. until after the 2026 season. So 2017 or 2027 opening day roster he could be on. But what he does as a 21-year-old, he threw that 19 strikeout perfect game when he was 19 years old. Just seeing him on the national stage is going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah, and I'm also going to go with a Japanese pitcher, even younger though. It's Hiroto Takahashi. He's 20 years old. He posted a 2.47 ERA last year in the Nippon Professional Baseball League as a 19-year-old for most of the season. He had 134 strikeouts, 10.34 strikeouts per game, which was second among all qualified pitchers in the MPB. So obviously another guy who's not going to be eligible to come here for a while, but somebody that we're going to be hearing about in the future. So a pair of pitchers there for Team Japan to keep an eye on. So that wraps up this episode of Call to the Bullpen. We're going to do World Baseball Classic power rankings that are going to be dropping alongside this episode, and we're going to keep updating those. We're going to keep coming back here and making predictions throughout this thing. But before we go, we do have one update from last episode, which was that we were wondering if the WBC is going to have pitch clock and shift limits, and the answer to that is no. There's not going to be a pitch clock. There's not going to be shift limits. So we're going to have to see the consequences of guys, going over there, playing those games with no pitch clock, and then coming back with a week or so until opening day. So that'll be interesting to keep an eye on. But that wraps up Season 3, Episode 2. And I'm really looking forward to this World Baseball Classic. I know you guys are too. For more, follow us on socials at CTBP Pod. And we'll see you all next week with another episode.